Hey, Morgan.
Hey, Kathy.
Thank you for doing this with me. We really appreciate it. So the purpose of this is for you and me to engage in two sets of interviews. The first one will be done one way, and the second one will be done another. And we'll just do this in the moment and see where it takes us, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so Morgan, what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion means that everyone feels accepted, included, valued.
Oh my gosh. So accepted, that's like how I'm thinking inclusion is. So, I mean, it's like you go into a classroom and you help everybody feel like they're part of it. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, is inclusion important in music education?
I think it's really important, especially when you're creating ensembles, whether that's a choir or a band, that everyone feels like they're not just another player or singer, that
Oh
they're
my
part
gosh,
of
right?
something.
All my life I was just like playing in the third trombone section, and I'm not sure I ever really felt included, but it was really important for me to be part of that ensemble. So yeah, that totally makes sense to me too. So how should music teachers engage in inclusion?
I think it starts with how they talk to, with, amongst their students and the language that they're using. So if they're what they're modeling to, so if they're saying, oh yeah, I'm the teacher, I'm always right, you're just another flute player, then obviously that's how the students are going to feel, and they're not going to want to engage in inclusion beyond them just knowing their parts. But if they're saying, you know what, let's actually rotate chairs, your first trumpet, now you're going to be second trumpet, or whatever your third
Oh,
chair.
right. I've heard people do that. That's like a great idea, right? That kind of chair thing where you like
Yeah.
rotate chairs. Wow, Morgan, that's really great. I think so much. I really appreciate this conversation with you. Really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. That felt so awful.
It's so awful. I can't even do it.
I got to laugh the whole time. I'm like, yes.
Okay, so I should before.
You're a
So
great actor.
that's a great point. So tell me, why did it feel awful?
Well, first of all, I just know that this is not normally how you and I would converse. So I was like, wow, Kathy's fabricating like these thoughts and these feelings that she's having. And also just like feeling that, yeah, I just have to kind of nod in agreement because this is what you're saying. And sure, I feel that way, even though I didn't really get the chance to really say how I was feeling. It's like, yeah, okay, for sure. We're just going to keep going.
Oh God, it's like painful. And to do that with a straight face was killing me.
Yeah. And also, like, I could see you wanting to, like, jump in. And I'm like, okay, yep. All right, I guess I'm going to let you talk now. And you're like, I don't want to do this.
I did not want to do that. So this is good. This says a lot about you and me. We've evolved really well. You never had to evolve. I did. Okay, so
Oh, don't even.
we're gonna start over, and I'm gonna use the same three questions, and we'll try to figure out how we can do this so that I'm actually not presupposing what you're going to say and not like waiting for you to say something that it speaks to me. But we'll really try to open this space so I actually allow you. I actually encourage you to think about the kind of things you're talking to me about. So, Morgan, I forgot my questions. Okay, so this is take two. Hey, Morgan, talk to me about what you think inclusion means.
Um, so I guess inclusion means feeling everyone's feeling accepted, heard, included, and felt like they're understood within whatever context that is.
What? Oh, wow. So what does it mean then for people to be, I'm interested in, I should be taking notes. I'm interested in two things you said. You talked about the context, but you also talked about so people feel heard. So tell me more about what you mean by the importance of feeling heard.
Well, I think it's really easy for us to listen and kind of absorb what someone said, but for them to really feel heard, I think that means they feel understood, they feel valued, and that their point or what they were trying to get across was valued, and not just like, yeah, okay, that's cool, but to be really heard and understood. And I said context just because if we're talking inclusion on like a global societal scale, that's very different than if we're talking about in a classroom or at work or with family dynamics.
Okay, so tell me more about what you mean by those are completely different contexts, and how should we think of them if they're different? I mean,
Yeah, I think the approach is probably going to be different, because if we're thinking about this in a classroom, it'll be between teachers, students, and other colleagues that are there. So there might feel like there's a bit of a power imbalance there. So creating inclusion with teachers and students might look a little bit different than if you're in the workforce and all your colleagues feel like they're on the same level and that they all have the same power. And then in society, that's entirely different because we all have different cultures, we all have different experiences, values, and things that we bring to the table. And what some people might feel needs to be included, or to feel that inclusion, might look different for another person from another culture.
That's interesting, because one of the things I've been thinking about in this class, this class that we're going to have, this tweet class, is that we have classes where people are coming from multiple different cultures. So we do have a microcosm of the world at large. So what is it? So now I'm wondering, what does it mean to help someone be heard that comes from a culture where being heard might look differently than what I think it looks like?
That's tricky, and I don't know if I have the answers, but this is just kind of what I'm thinking. For me, it just means, so okay, I'm gonna pull from an example here just because it's gonna help me think through it. But what we did with my community-based learning project was we did like, what is the meaning of your name game. So it gave every student a chance to talk about, this is my name, and it actually has something to do with potentially my culture, my language, my family, or it's just a really nice name my parents picked out for me. So then learning about that kind of helps open the door in a very non-judgmental, very safe, I thought it was safe environment for them to talk more about who they are and their cultures and their experiences. And then you can bridge, well, look at this, look at how diverse we are. How can we come together to make everyone feel included and heard? And I think just starting off by not only listening, but hearing what everyone has to bring to the table is a great place to start.
How we are named and in what ways we're named is powerful. That's interesting, and that you were able to make it feel that everyone could talk about their name is also a tribute to kind of mindful pedagogy. Because, for instance, my name, I don't have my parents just like probably picked a name randomly, but I know other people have really phenomenal stories that go with that. But but it seems like those people that were me in your classroom or in your context didn't feel like, they felt like it was okay that their name might have just been random.
Yeah.
Chosen. So your notion of inclusivity by beginning with something that's really personal and might have connections to a larger part of their lives is a really profound way to start thinking about how do we hear people and include them. Yes, I think that was a great example that really helped me think that through. And then in this interesting notion that context shift, we would have to spend more time thinking about that. But I love that you're leaving me with these thoughts. So my next question was, though, why should music teachers worry about inclusion, and what would that look like?
I think just as any teacher wants their students to feel safe in the classroom, I think inclusion is one way to create that positive atmosphere. And especially if you want students to come together and, create music and engage in artistry with one another, making sure that they all feel included, valued, respected. I think there's multiple layers of inclusion, and I'm just spitting out a bunch of aspects that I think tie into the larger picture of inclusion. I think that having all of that layered on top of another and woven in together will help create more of a cohesive dynamic in your classroom, where students, they're people too, but students can raise their hand and say, well, I don't understand that. Why are we playing this piece? Or what does it mean? Or I really don't like my part in this piece. Or can I try doing this instead? So where they feel like, yeah, I can talk about this, and I don't have to just sit here and listen to the teacher telling me what to do as if they're the only person who has ideas to spread amongst the ensemble. I think that it's just, you're going to create dare I say, better music together, because it's going to be more meaningful to the students, because they're going to feel like a part of the project and not just playing this music that some person wrote and that's all it is, and it's cool, and I got those rhythms right and the pitches were okay and my tuning was okay, right? Like, it's so much more than that. I'm not saying that that's not important. I'm saying so much more to that, and inclusion is kind of a means to the end, and also just important because I think, especially in today's society and with recent events, sometimes people don't feel like their voice is heard or that they're valued or they're included. And it starts when they're young, I think. You know, if they, from a young age, have been told that they don't matter and their lives don't matter, then why would they want to become part of anything and a part of society and you know, feel included in that bigger, larger global scale I was talking about earlier? And how do we do this? Well, I think that's really complex. And you're not going to get it right the first time, I don't think. And I think you're always going to be evolving with how to model this and how to do this the more we learn and educate and absorb knowledge ourselves. However, one way we might approach it in the first place is kind of shifting the power dynamic back to the students. And I'm not saying that like the free for all and you can just do whatever. They still need structure and they still need to have guidelines. But saying, what do you think about this? Why? What might this look like? What if we played it this way? Traditionally, we might play it this way according to Western classical music. But what if we tried it like this? And then having those discussions. And never kind of arriving at like a right or wrong way to do it, but saying there's different contexts for us to do certain things in. And I'm wondering what you think about that. And I've been thinking about it a lot. So let's, you know, turn it back to the ensemble, the choir, the band, whatever that is. I don't know, I could probably keep going on, but I'll just stop there.
No, again, I think it's okay. I should have been taking notes because there's so much in there. But one of the things I'm really drawn to is that, well, two things. You had this at the very beginning. You talked about included, and then you listed all these things that meant, and then you talked about how it, you know, there's no such thing as just thinking of inclusion in a very simple way. You articulated that beautifully about how many layers there.
I think we can think about it simply. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but I think we can think about it simply, but then we're doing a disservice to ourselves and our students.
Exactly. And you were not thinking of it simply, and you articulated that beautifully, that it's so much more than just one act. But then you said something that was interesting, and you said inclusion is just a means to the end. And of course, I've got hung up on that because I want to ask you more about what you think the end is. Because then as you started talking at the very end about how students their input is valued and helping them think about possible ways of entering musics and what does it mean to shift musics and how did musics begin the way they are, I was like, I'm wondering if Morgan has actually articulated what she thinks the end is, because that end where everybody's engaged and feeling heard, I wonder if that end is different than traditional ends might be in a band or a choir.
Yeah. So you want me to talk about what I think this end is? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one end. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we arrived at the goal. We're successful. I think that every student, they're gonna okay, so first of all, I think all the students are gonna have a different end. Some of them might want to be in choir, band, or even just in your general music class because they want to be a professional musician. And their end might be, I would love to be the best I can be, right? And some, it's a safe place for them. You know, they don't maybe get along with their other teachers and their other classes, or they don't feel like they're thriving or they're really passionate about it. Music is just a great outlet for them, and something that makes them feel warm and fuzzy. And some of them might love the social aspect and just want to get to know people. But I think at the end of the day, as a teacher, what your end should be is making sure that students have taken something away from the journey, whether that's, look, we've built our technique and we've learned so much about these different genres, styles of music in its broadest sense. And also, you know, a lot of our curriculum is Western classical music. So knowing that that's a part of it likely. Yeah, we've learned all this and done all this, and we've created beautiful musicianship together. And we've come together as a group of people, and the understanding that music brings people together, and it's something you do together. And yes, we can create music individually, and look at how much joy we can create with music as an ensemble. So I think your goal as a teacher is, yeah, you want to build them to be the best musicians they can be, and you want to set your expectations high because students can live up to them and they can thrive when you give them those challenges. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if they're not, and I'm not saying that music is just all fun and games, because like the music classroom should be engaging, not just fun, but I think that they need to have joy, and I think that they need to feel, I think joy is really the word I want. I want to feel joyful and that they've enjoyed it, and that there's some deeper meaning to it for them, and they can define whatever that is for themselves. I don't think the teacher can really define that for a student, and it's going to be a different joy for teachers. Like that goes into your philosophy of music education and why you're doing that, and that's a whole other thing. But I think after taking Dr. Woodford's class, I really think music is a great way, and this is like a big jump, but I'm going to go for it, like justice-oriented citizens, like people who want to go out into the community and be a part of the change, and think critically and question and look at structures and ask why are they like that, and engage in music in whatever capacity they want to. It's like some people in my music program went off and did music programs. Like I was one of the few, but lots of people went off and did other things, but kept music in their lives because it gave them something else. I don't know, it's really complex, but I think that's kind of where my brain is right now.
It is complex, and that's the beauty of it, is that you're willing to like grapple with the complexity of it.
Yeah, I don't have it all figured out either, so
I don't know that we do figure it out. I think it's always kind of moving forward and bringing in what we've learned from each moment. But before I let you go, I just want to return to one thing you said in there, is that ends are both individual, like each person is there for a particular reason, which you articulated beautifully. And then the teacher also has very particular ends. And so it's how we define what ends means, and which you did a lot. I think it's not a particular set thing. You said that very clearly. But it's knowing that other people are there for reasons other than my desires and my needs as the teacher. And that, I had not thought of that as well as I did without you thinking that through with me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I haven't had a conversation like this in a long time, so this is wonderful.
Oh, so that's good to know. So can you, before we hang up, would you talk about the difference between the first conversation and having the first engagement and then the second encounter? I mean, what were the differences for you? Because the questions were the same.
Yeah, you're right. I think, first of all, we had a way more in-depth engagement, encounter, conversation the second time, because I felt like it wasn't just, okay, I'm a teacher, I'm here to ask you questions and get your answers and write them down and take them verbatim. It was more like, oh, that's interesting. I've been thinking about that and I'm wondering what you mean about that. Tell me more. So following up on things that kind of sparked your attention, and you allowed me to kind of go off on little rants about what that meant, or to just talk through my thinking. And half the time I didn't really know where I was going to end up with my thoughts either, which was kind of the beautiful part of it, because it was more organic and natural. It was like, you know what? No one has ever asked me that before or followed up with those thoughts that much with me before. Okay, I have to think through this now. And look, I've been given the opportunity to do so. And then you would kind of move on from there wherever the conversation led it. It wasn't like, these are the questions, stick to them. It was more like, oh, where can we go with it now? Kind of thing, and just went with the flow.
Yeah, so I think the word that I would absolutely kind of challenge is allowing. But I understand why you would use that word, because and me being the teacher in this moment, it makes sense that as the student, you would see this all of a sudden as an allowance. That I am allowing you, which it's like so crazy problematic, right? That it should just be the norm that we would be able to have this, but that your first instinct was to use the word, the teacher allowed me to express my thoughts, is so problematic, right? But it makes total sense. we are rarely allowed or afforded the a time to think and express with others. So
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way either.
we shouldn't
I'm
be
gonna
allowed.
never say that word now. I'm gonna be like, nope, allow, nope.
No, allow is on my list of things, words not to say. Yes, I'm going to allow you, right? And that's it. That's such an interesting shift, right? One word shifts your, I mean, it shifts your entire philosophy in another way. You had this brilliant kind of engagement just now where you were thinking really deeply, but you still were operating under Kathy's allowing this in this moment.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it. And if you allow me, I'm going to share this recording with everyone.
Yes. No, you totally can.
It's really great to talk to you, and you're doing well, and no more picking up rocks, which, by the way, is so fascinating.
Yeah, I went back to my farming roots. Hey,
I know, right?
A job was a job at this point, and it gave me something to do. But yeah, I'm just hanging out now and enjoying the warm weather. Yeah.
When are you moving?
Oh, so that's complicated because
Well, I'm actually going to stop recording this.
I didn't want to get personal.